Welcome, welcome. And thank you guys all who made it to the February meeting at AIC where we started talking about developing guiding principles. We're going to bring that back just a little bit because some people are a little confused, and what makes sense in Sarita brain doesn't always translate. So we're going to make sure we make it make sense tonight. Agenda, we'll talk a little bit about our big question, because how this will work in real life for us is that we're going to develop some guiding principles around buildings, boundaries, and program. They will be related and grounded in the big question, and then they'll have to connect to a miracles priority and our SAP vision. At AIC, somebody said, miracles priorities, what is that? Touche, I didn't tell you. So we're gonna do that tonight and talk a little bit through that. And then you guys, the goal is gonna be to develop 2 to 3 guiding principles, okay? That's what the goal is. And then I'll tell you how we'll bring it kind of all together with all of the committees, all right? Anybody care to read?
The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Steve Jobs.
This is not business as usual. I keep saying that in various aspects, and I know there's some skepticism about this, because it is really, really hard to change anything, especially in a district this large, and that has kind of been doing the same stuff for decades and decades, and also has a lot of broken promises to communities. So we got to push our brains to try to change, and just, if you could follow the journey with me. I will say that in my last district, people kept saying, well, how did you guys do it? We had the right superintendent, we had the right board, and it was the right time. Those were the 3 magic pieces for us. So I'm hoping, similarly, we have the right superintendent, the right board, and it's the right time. Because that's how like, sometimes the things just have to align. All right, a few updates. We will be wrapping up the student assignment survey next week. We have a few other places to hit. We went to some Cross Keys areas. We went to some Clarkston areas. I think we have 2 more we're going to, just to try to, again, get just a little more diversity in that survey. And then Kayla's going to synthesize all that for us, so you'll be able to see raw data and then some data synthesis. And that data you'll be able to use to triangulate once we really start getting into like what these recommendations look like. So when I say, hey, you got to triangulate some data, there's some family stuff. There's some actual data that we get from the district. There is some historical information. We need 3 ways of kind of looking at the same thing. So we're almost done with that. There is an Idlewood redistricting that just passed the board in February, where we are taking a subset of Idlewood, moving them to Smoke Rise in order to rebuild Idlewood. So Idlewood is going through a renovation. There are too many kids there currently, lots of modulars. And so about 400 kids are going to shift. Smoke Rise currently has 500-ish open seats. So we are going to shift them there until our process is done, because we got to look at that whole boundary anyway. So they will be temporarily moved there. We looked at a few different scenarios on what that could look like. Originally, it was like, oh, 4th and 5th grade, easy, because then they go to Tucker, no problem. Transportation logistics, couldn't do it. Parent and family logistics, like, so I'm gonna have a 4th grader over here and my 3rd grader over here. How does that work? So we ended up doing it geographically. This was before us. This was not a student assignment saying, hey, let's get our feet wet. It was more like planning had already guaranteed that this was gonna happen, and we just kind of slid in and said, all right, let's talk to families, let's make sure we're doing this well, and then we'll take that into consideration when we start looking at that total boundary. The possibility of new members, we're looking a little thin. Attrition happens in these kind of things, planned for it. So Kayla and I will be reaching out to some committee members saying like, hey, so if you're not gonna show up, we're gonna kindly ask you to leave, and we're gonna bring some new people on. And how that will work is there are plenty of people applied, so we'll go back into that same database. There are some very active people that have been following the work. Perhaps we allow them to apply. And then over the summer, I'll kind of onboard them on what we've done over the course of this year. Then they will start in the fall. So if you know anybody, just tell them to be looking out in April. We'll be sending some information out about how to join the committee. So if you know someone who's been like, hey, tell me what happened in SAP today, that's the kind of people we want to come and join us. So I introduced a monthly SAP at a glance video at the board on Monday. We will be sharing these monthly because I want the board to start generating conversations in their areas or for their constituents. So it's just not a surprise all of a sudden when we're like, hey, we have some preliminary recommendations and people are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So that we're going to make quick videos just to kind of spark interest in conversation, because if they're talking about it negatively or positively, they're talking about it. So that video will be shared with the board monthly. I will be sharing it with our area superintendents to share with principals. I met with PAC, and I sent it to PTA and PTO families to say like, hey, can you please just share this out monthly for me? Then I have a little drop-in session for them to come and learn a little bit more. I also shared it to a bunch of principals. So we're just gonna keep monthly like pushing the information out to hopefully, again, generate conversation and get people to start thinking about what this might mean. All right, so today so this slide deck is gonna be the same slide deck through May. All right, because we are going to be developing guiding principles for buildings, boundaries, programs. The process isn't different for either of those areas. We're going to do the same thing each month, just a different subject area. So if you were not here in February, we did a little bit of a practice with the cell phone policy in the district. Well, not a cell phone policy. Disconnect to reconnect is kind of the example we used. We brainstormed and then kind of developed a guiding principle. What you need to know about guiding principles is the 3 A's. It needs to be action-oriented, it needs to align with our vision, and it needs to be adaptable, right? So you cannot say, at Tucker, that is way too specific, right? And Tucker is not the only school in our district, so it cannot be aligned with the vision when we're talking about the overall district. Think of the guiding principles as kind of your guardrails on how you're going to make a recommendation, okay? And think of all of the information we've been talking about. This is why I said, hey, we have this Google Drive because all of your packets are in there, all of your notes from those areas. So you're going to have to go back to your buildings one, look at your notes, look at your data worksheets to say, like, what were we talking about in September, October when we did this, and how can we start thinking about what those guardrails are for the guiding principles. SAP is the what, not the how. So I keep getting a lot of questions about, well, how are they going to do this? That's not us. It's what should we do? During the summertime, I am in the process of planning an internal SAP committee that will look at all of your what stuff and try to start thinking of like, okay, here's some options, here's some scenarios, it's going to be probably a lot when you come back in the fall. We might be like, hey, team 3, you said all these things. Here's like 50 different things to look at. So we can start using some stuff like, oh, here's like 12 options for buildings and 12 options for boundaries. What if we put these buildings over here? And what if we put those programs over there? That's what you'll be able to come back to in the fall. So over the summer, all the people that do this stuff will be together and trying to give you options on what that stuff looks like, which is why I always ask that you put stuff in your notes. Yes, love?
So that's going to be like an Iron Man sort of thing?
It'll look a little different than sitting at tables. I can definitely tell you that. Because in my head, I was like, how are we going to get to? Because each of these are a little bit different, and because this district is so large, I want to give you as many scenarios and options as possible, and you can kind of pick and choose and move things how you want. If one of your guiding principles is that we need to have program alignment, here's all the programs, here are where they all are, figure out how to align, right? It'll be kind of like that. So you won't be kind of starting from nothing when you come back in the fall. Now you got Iron Man references in my head. Great. Okay, so that's what today is. All right, we use this example again in February. So a great guiding principle around disconnect to reconnect is there should be options available for teachers to help them ensure cell phones do not disrupt class. That's general, it's adaptable, options for teachers, right? It's an action item. The other one there were a few other ones that I heard, they was like, oh, well, we should make one for families. We should make a guiding principle for administrators, because this is, or for students. And so I was like, okay, we're smoking right now, right? Like, so that was good. Like, we were pushing on a big problem and how do we just connect it to a guiding principle. And then we talked about what it was addressing. And this one didn't obviously have a SAP connection to our vision, but we would connect it there, and then we'll talk a little bit through how you connect it to miracles. And what are miracles? I'm gonna skip really quick because Dr. Horton has a little video. I don't know if this is gonna play on here, let's see. Can we hear it? Yay.
Hello, DCSD family. Education leaders across the country are working to find ways to not just address, but grow their respective institutions into highly engaged, student-centered, systemic organizations. The work that is required cannot be done overnight. It can't be driven by the people alone. Many of our students are not being given the best opportunity to grow and excel due to many factors. These factors, while oftentimes may look like an individual, actually lives in the policies, beliefs, and the culture of the system. While there's no silver bullet to changing the predictable outcomes of our most marginalized students, there is a way to disrupt the systemic challenges that our schools operate from. Miracles is a continuous improvement framework designed to help district and school leaders address and shift policies, practices, and expectations within their own organizations. There are elements of schools and districts that are tightly and loosely coupled that have major strongholds on culture and expectations of students, staff, and community members. The Miracles Framework process will help each individual to build a school or district-specific roadmap to start the journey towards improved institutionalized opportunities for all learners. The Miracles Framework is an evidence-based approach to education quality improvement that enables districts to improve their academic and operational performance and ultimately transform their student outcomes. The framework comprises of 8 components that work together in concert to improve educational quality and drive a positive academic and operational transformation. Miracles is an acronym. Each letter represents a critical arm to our Central Office Improvement Plan. Motion towards equity, improved instructional core, rigorous course of study, attract and retain high-quality staff, commitment to accountability, learning environments that support student success, establish expected targets driven by results, and sound fiscal stewardship. Together, we can lay the groundwork for success and growth for all.
So that is the miracle. I lost my clicker. The Miracle Framework. And every month, every leadership team has to go in front of Dr. Horton and talk about our Miracles priorities and what we have done in the last 30 days and what we plan to do in the next 30 days related to this. So obviously, whatever we're doing, I want to make sure it's tied into our Miracle Framework and for accountability measures for our district, so we aren't just so kind of far off of the measures and the roadmap of the district. So this is in your handout. It kind of outlines each of these tenets. And I also bring this up because I did meet with Dr. Horton. We have been kind of talking a little bit about like what things from SAP we should be thinking about, both from a board perspective, from his perspective, and from community members and our staff's perspective. So in his first year, he did H-Pride visits at school. I think those are still actually going on. And he did some community sessions. And so all that information, and there's a lot of feedback that we just kind of pulled together. Like, here's some things that people are asking for. You'll see it. And then in your worksheet, I kind of put some of those into different tenets. Those are considerations. They are not mandates from Dr. Horton. They are not something we have to do, but these are things that he has heard over the course of this year and a half that he's been, or almost 2 years that he's been here. So just things to think about. Parents want more choice. Not a surprise, right? That's in there because they want more choice. So just things for us to think about as we're starting to craft some of our guiding principles and our eventually our recommendations. So tonight, our big question is, what do we need to consider when determining right sizing for our district? The word right sizing is a little bit in air quotes because who knows what that means, right? So there are some considerations. You know, we have 10,000 less students than we did 10 years ago. We have 20,000 open seats in our district right now. And in very, very lamest financial terms, it costs more money to run a school with less kids. Like, that's all I got for you. Now, I'm working really hard on getting actual numbers, but in lamest terms, right? And so if we can have schools with at least 70 to 80% full, that is a beautiful way of doing district redistricting and thinking about our buildings. So just things to think about as we go through that. All right, so we're gonna get to work. You guys have worksheets in your Google Drive. Remember to go back to your buildings worksheets that you did in October probably. Those are still in your Google Drive. And then we'll be coming around to kind of check in on you guys. 2 to 3 guiding principles for buildings. That's the goal for tonight. All right. All right, guys, let's come back. So we can hear all of your wonderful ideas. So while I let you finish writing up whatever you got lingering, I have started the process of as much data collection as possible. I didn't realize when I first got here, I was like just researching random things related to DeKalb and redistricting and such. So I have like folders and folders of just stuff. So I'm fishing through that. And as we go through that, Kayla and I are going to be dumping some stuff inside of your Google Drives. So this is just a slide of just some stuff to look forward to. We did talk to a few different Georgia schools. I did do a comparison of schools that are similar to ours in size. Just trying to like, how many buildings does this school have? So I don't have the buildings yet, but I just had to like go through and like, there's some schools in Oakland and some schools here. Like how many buildings does another district have that has 90-something thousand students, that has 100,000, just to give us some ideas, right? So that's on the way. Looking at, there's some demographic snapshots for us to look at over time. I did ask, because we've been asking a lot about like, do we have like land and space otherwhere? In other places? We do, and I just figured out how to look at it on a map. So I will share that with you guys as we talk a little bit about that boundary piece. There's some school choice stuff in there. So some of the stuff that you guys already have, the GOD stuff from the state, some comparable information, other magnet school models. So some tables like, how many K-8s do we have? One. DAA is our only K-8, and it's not a boundary school. It is a choice school. I will tell you that Dr. Horton is very interested in looking at more of those throughout the district.
There is the museum school, which is a public
Charter, correct.
She's not included in charter.
Well, I wasn't included. We have a few K-8 charters, yeah. Yeah, but I think there's two of them that are K-8, if I'm not mistaken. Two of the charters. Globe?
It's Globe, Museum, and Date. Globe goes to 8. I got a kid.
Okay.
Okay. I'm pretty sure there's more than, there's like one or two. And there's some really great benefits of K-8 transportation. So, things for us to possibly consider. So just, start thinking about what those kind of, so I gave you some options. I think Gwinnett County opened up a AI high school. I don't know what that means. It's on the list. I was like, oh, okay. Like, thinking futuristic, y'all. So just, there are things, right? And AI is alive and well. Helps me with a lot of my emails sometimes. So just things to start thinking about, right, as we get into that program realm and what we want to think about on the recommendations. Yes?
I have been curious about how many potential students live in DeKalb County. So I went to the 2020 census, and I looked at the reported number of students that would be in our schools at this time based on the 2020 census. And I came up with 119,000.
That's about right.
Yep, sounds about
Just a thought.
I'm not surprised.
That's about right.
Some of them are somewhere we are.
We also,
How does that compare to what is actually in?
Well,
we have about 90,
We've got 90, but there's 10,000.
we have about 93, 4.
There's also 10,000 in private schools that we know of,
30
plus
K.
another
So it's only
2,500 homeschools. And I don't know. I
Where are
think
those other ones?
Plus the charter, so, but we have potentially 119,000
Total.
school-age kids living in DeKalb County based on the census.
And
Yeah.
about 20,000 unaccounted.
And the math.
You're including the private.
8 or 10,000 unaccounted for, hiding under the bushes somewhere.
That is.
The state collected the private schools.
Homeschool is a little hit or miss. Like, everybody doesn't report homeschool.
Private school, but the private schools don't have to report where you're zoned. So
Yes,
the
and,
private school data is not necessarily.
It's about 9,999, I remember because it was such a weird number. We have reported as of last year, that's a number from the state. I looked
That's
that
a number
up.
from the
That's
state?
in our database that we looked
Okay.
at. So it's right about 10,000 private school students.
Oh, right. It doesn't say which.
What area?
Right.
Correct.
Right.
About 10,000.
That's an interesting point though. Something for us to definitely think about, which is why when we talk about like what is a potential great percentage of capacity, we don't want it at 100% because, you know, if something magical happens and we have these great programs, those 20,000 kids might come back, right? And so you want to have some flexibility in your schools that everything shouldn't be at 100%.
So before you move off from data, we were talking about the possibility of combining the capacity utilization information with the boundary maps. Is that?
I think David could do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he could do that.
Yeah,
It's a great idea.
because I wrote Hofstadter and says, you know, census says 119. He says, well, we have capacity for 110. And I thought, well, yeah, but where are they located? That, I mean, we got the capacity, but are they in the right places for where the children are?
No, ma'am. Hence this committee. No, ma'am, they are not.
We get 110 in. The other 10 are going to private schools, so we're good.
Right. This was just a quote I had. I'm a quote person. I stole it from someone's church that I went to a few weeks ago. And I was like, oh, there's a sign. Maybe I am in the right place doing the right thing. Just around reimagining and what that really looks like. And that part of where like it involves seeing possibilities that were previously overlooked or approaching these ideas and concepts with a fresh mindset. So I think even like that was a great point, right? Like, hey, did we know how many kids are actually living in our district and what we should be planning for? Phenomenal point, right? So just, you know, keep putting those things out there. I know like skies isn't necessarily the limit, but like we got to dream a little bit big to even get to what reimagining looks like. So I appreciate you guys in doing that. I talked a little bit about how the summer is going to work, so I'm not going to spend time there. Each of these has a glossary. Great. Let's hear what you guys got. Guiding principles. Who's first? You guys got some good ones.
Okay, so.
Wait,
we came up
I'm
with
sorry.
4. Oh, okay.
Come on.
4,
Okay.
the starting point.
Overachievers over here came up with 4.
Okay, sure. All right, so first guiding principle. Buildings should be fit for purpose and honor a realistic and appropriate life cycle and have a plan for ongoing maintenance and repair. The next one is related to proximity and density. Families and children should only have to travel a reasonable distance to get to school. Transportation should not be a determining factor when choosing school programs. We expect this one to be connected to what we'll talk about in the next session. And finally, this is, I think, maybe our table's favorite. The definition of optimal capacity per building is more important than maximum capacity and should be honored.
Oh. Say a little bit. Yep.
Yeah, 3, we said transportation should not be a determining factor when choosing school programs. We linked that one to Miracle's M, so that like, if you have school choice, that's great and desirable, but a family cannot make the transportation work, that shouldn't preclude them from taking advantage of it. Yeah.
Tell me more about the last one, really quick.
The last one, the definition of optimal, thank you. The definition of optimal capacity per building is more important than maximal capacity. And we thought about like maybe on a blueprint with some state ratio, it says X number, but we know based on parking lot and cafeteria and bathrooms that actually the school will function much better at like 85% of X. And so having a more holistic definition of what optimal capacity, like that definition will serve the school better than just what's on a blueprint for maximum capacity.
Ooh.
And then we even to make that
Stand
Yes.
up, Kedrick, stand up.
No, you good. to make that more relative, we assigned that and really just thought about it. No building is best at maximum capacity.
Nowhere, no church, no
Right?
grocery
So
store.
what does it mean when we're saying a building is over capacity?
It's over max, which is problematic, which we have several of. I like those. Very nice. All right, team 1. Yay. Very good. Rocking it out.
All right, so we came up with 3. The first one is there should be considerations for school buildings to help them ensure there is space for growth. So essentially, you know, when we're looking at purchasing land, that there's plenty of land for the school to grow, that there's considerations for maybe annexing some land to allow the school to grow. And with that one, we want to obviously address higher density schools, school zoning and all of that. The next one, there should be a minimal level of athletic facilities available at each school across the district.
Come on, bringing athletics into it. We need it.
And to piggyback off of what you guys said, there should be a plan to bring every school building up to current code.
I feel like one of our board members would love these things to actually
One
happen.
of the things too, I just shared with them, my church is in DeKalb County, and we built a nice, wonderful church. Come and visit us. We're off of Clifton Springs, so I go to Beulah, and we built this magnificent church. And maybe a year or two in, we built the Life Center, and we still have space if we want to
Expand and pop
We can
out a little bit.
So why is that? How is that good? When it is good for the church, not saying that, but we should build schools that way, right? Because we still have all of this space around where we can expand if we needed to. Like, you know, one of the things, we run a camp, so they're thinking about putting in a playground, but we have space to do that. And I would love for us to build schools that way. And that facility will last us for years. And I mean,
Yeah.
the way that we keep it up. So just kind of looking at how I'm in the same county. We're doing that for this entity, but we're not doing it for our schools. So that's something to think about.
Good question. And with that, there's kind of those kind of pull and tug. So we can build bigger, more flexible schools. That means we got to get rid of these tiny little neighborhood schools. People love their tiny little neighborhood schools. So, and I was talking to Team 5 a little bit about Fernbank is a really good example, right? Like there were two tiny neighborhood schools that came together as Fernbank, which is a big 900-seater elementary school, and they are rocking it, right? And there's just something about being able to put resources into one space, right? There's also something about like if my child is really intimidated and like nervous and have a lot of needs, I love them in a small environment, in a small classroom that everybody knows their name when they walk through the halls, right? So those are two very different spaces, and we got to figure out which one we're going to kind of draw our line in the sand with. All right, Team 3.
Here. Our first goal is all schools should be at least 80% utilized and meet the educational needs of all students.
Okay.
And that is a financial stewardship goal.
Nice.
Other guiding principle, all facilities should be fully accessible to all people regardless of ability. Buildings should be structured so that
equity.
all students can effectively pursue their educational objectives.
Nice.
So bathrooms should work.
Heard. And if there's stairs, there should be a ramp or an elevator. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we didn't get too deep into the third one, but all facilities should have controlled access, and that's a safety feature. We want the schools to be safe places.
Yeah.
And that starts with controlled access, which some schools it's impossible to do.
Great. All right, Team 3. Come on with the safety and accessibility. All right, Team 5. Don't worry, they'll make up for you guys.
I wrote it down, so now I have to say it out loud. My heart rate's up.
Goes with what everybody else has said.
Yes, we only have. Oh shoot! Great. Remind me not to be the scribe next time. Okay, we only have one, but we feel passionately about it. Our guiding principle was that we need high school buildings that can support the diversity of curricula that the county offers. So talking about, different programming, kind of from all different feeder schools moving into one high school in each area, so that students all across the board have access to equal programming, which I understand goes into programming, but feeding into the building itself. So specifically the high school building having to support this a little bit more diverse curricula and programming that may feed into it from our elementary schools and our middle schools, in hopes to distribute the programs across the geographic boundaries in the county and keep families and community involvement in each local school at each local level, so that everybody's not leaving their community trying to go all over the place, so that they can be invested and involved in their community, in their school, a little bit more equally.
Moving programs and then we get to talk
Yeah,
about
they moved to next month at this table. They
We did. We decided
pushed into
that
programs.
did hit all of the miracles there,
Okay.
so we felt good about just that
Good.
one strong one, maybe.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Yes.
Questions?
I just need to understand. So are you saying I need examples? So are you saying every building should have shops?
No. We did a lot of
Every building should have a space for cosmetology.
Yeah,
so
we
that you
got
don't
into
go to the shop
programming.
school?
Yeah, we got into
We did get a little
programming.
into programming.
We talked about maybe having 3 arts high schools, 3 math science high schools. But also within that school, you also have a general population so that they can reach the specialized programs geographically, but if a kid really doesn't want a specialized program, you can still have general high school within the same building. So that if it is going to be an arts high school, there is specialized art space, but there is also full program. Does that make sense? So we were talking a lot about distributing opportunity around and creating high schools that can handle more than one program in it.
Yeah.
So I live in a, when I backslid a little bit and went to another district.
I mean, give us the whole, give us
a little
the whole
while.
thing.
So I worked in Rockdale, and at the time we did not have the Career Academy, right? So when we went on, they formed a team sort of like this one to research, go that way, and they built a Career Academy. And in that Career Academy, there is a early learning center that is run by the students. Like they actually and their teachers in there as well.
Yeah.
But the students are doing that hands-on learning. They have a coffee shop. The kids have access to the kitchen to assist with lunch and to cater events for the district. They have paramedics, they can do those different things. So the schools bus the kids there like they do to our OEC, North and South.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that facility was built, and because we were thinking about doing it like we do our OEC North and South, but that facility housed more kids, right? And it also allows the schools to offer more course offerings because that big chunk of kids are gone. Now I can offer, for instance, if I wanted to offer that AP class, I can do that. And I also can reduce my class sizes during a certain time of day. So I wonder, where are we? And where are we with a career type of academy, like combining our North and our South together to be one big facility? Because that would alleviate a lot of more space. Because right now I'm capped at how many. I can't send too many, but you better believe I push to send as many students who want to go because they want to go.
Yeah.
So that's my question.
Good point.
Not that OEC North and South aren't doing a great job. They are. The kids love it there. But
Yeah.
what does that look like?
Because they can't take but so many.
Yeah. And that's they love it though. They have great programs, cosmetology. They have contests and events. The kids invite us to and all of that. But we could just do more if we just had that.
I think one of the goals of this work is for that to come out. We need a college and career academy because what the 2 schools that we have now don't do is feed in the post-secondary piece, the work-based learning piece, the apprenticeship piece, the partnerships piece. Don't miss out, though, our traditional high schools have some amazing CTAE programs. And so I think in a district this large, we have to have a couple of different ways to meet the needs of students. And so what the CTAE team is doing now is reevaluating what pathways are offered at what schools. Part of the work of this team is my hope is that it comes out what we need to meet the needs of our students. Students that graduate with CTAE pathways graduate at a 98% graduation rate. So in my mind, every child needs to have some exposure and experience in completing a pathway. We are also building the workforce, right? So they leave us, not everybody can afford to go to a 4-year college, right?
Yeah.
They need to be trained in something in order to go to work. Who's fixing your air conditioning?
Right.
Who's fixing your plumbing? Who's building your house? The dual enrollment opportunities allow college to be paid for. That training, some of that training to be paid for. So it's our goal for this group, this team to tell us what we need to do so that we move forward with making that happen.
I do want to say with the CCAE department, when I came here 3 years ago, I was sitting, my cube was with the CTAE, and when I got this job, one of the CTAE coordinators said, "Hey, does your school want an audio-visual program?" I said, "Of course we do." He said, "You're not going to ask your principal?" I said, "Of course not." I'm gonna say
We want it.
anyway. So I texted my principal. I said, "Hey, do you want an audio-visual program?" He said, "I absolutely do, yes." So we now have an audio-visual program, and it is, look, in the words of Tiffany Haddish, it's nice. And I will, in our May meeting, I will walk you around there so you can see that. But they are very responsive to our needs, and if we have an idea or programs, because that room was very underutilized when I got here. And they came over the summer and knocked out some walls, brought all this equipment.
It is really
and they
cool.
can do podcasts, they can do the news, and they have these soundproof booths back there. So not that things are not going on in the school. So I wanted to reiterate that we have that here. And then my CTAE teachers, we had entrepreneurship day. Like in the cafeteria, kids were selling things that they made, and it was just happening. So we do make it happen within the 4 walls that we have, but just think about it. If we had more space, we would be, but our audio visual program, and thank your department for that, it is really up and running. They went to Trillet, because we're trying to build some relationships and show the kids what they actually can do when they leave here. So it is happening. So,
and traditionally, centralized college and career academies or career academies house the more expensive labs. So your automotive, your early learning center, because it's a teaching space and a lab space. Your culinary, your dentistry, your pharmacy, your barbering, your cosmetics, those are pretty expensive labs. You can't put those labs
In every school.
because I have to go in there and take them out doing hair development.
Right.
Yeah.
So, traditionally, that's what the College and Career Academy does.
And that's what we were talking about, They're placed, though, to where they're not all in one place. They're distributed geographically and embedded in the schools.
And
Nice.
So the work of reevaluating is happening too. Times have changed.
Yeah.
So, every school needs to offer AI. Every school needs to offer cybersecurity. Maybe instead of business, right? Or maybe instead of, something else. But we also have to give, voice and choice to students. What are they interested in?
Yeah. Great. Some things happening. Exciting. All right, homework. If you didn't finish up your worksheets, please make sure those get in there, because that is what we look at when we go back and do our review. And then there's, again, some more data is in there. I am daily asking for data from various people. I meet with teams weekly, pulling that. And then you guys come back in April. Do your, yay. Exit survey. Thank you all. Wonderful job. Oh, one more thing. So sorry. So how we're going to come up with like our final 3 to 5 guiding principles. So I'm working with our assessment team to see if our surveying software can do something called a max diff survey, which like every team will put all the guiding principles in there. And then it compares or does some magic with it, and then you give feedback, and then somehow it spits out some information to say, here's like the top ones that make sense towards your goal or something like that. So that will be a virtual thing. So look out for that towards the end of the month after each of the committees have gone through it. We'll put it all in there, maybe take out ones that are too similar, et cetera. And then I'll give you some more information on how we'll get to kind of the final one for buildings, boundaries, and programs. Yay. Thank you all. You did wonderful. Please do the exit survey.